Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, we on maswera se lichone njani sanibonani nakadi muzule chwani. That's Nyanja, right? Muzule chwani.
Well, I don't know what language that is, but
Muzuhile. That's Lozi. Muzuhile chwani.
Okay.
That's Lozi.
Right.
I'm blessed to know a couple of languages. And I'm trying to see. Okay. No, not Niger. That's Lozi. I'm trying to see if I can share this to other platforms. And yeah, let's just talk. All right. Good morning. No, it's not morning. It's afternoon, but it's good morning in the UK. Guys,
you know what I need to do?
I
think what I need to do right now is to just put you on just leave you on hold whilst I go and get a cable to connect my phone on the charger.
Not a problem. Yeah, you can leave me while I do.
I can see what's going to happen here. So
okay, no,
I'll just
that's fine.
You here.
Okay, that's fine. As long as I've got the scenery. All right. Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing? How is lockdown treating you? What is it that you guys are doing differently? And what new things have you learned from this whole lockdown exercise? What have you learned about yourself? So we're just going to be having a general conversation, just to keep each other informed, entertained, and just to find out really what is happening around us, and obviously this is a global pandemic that has hit all of us, and the rich, the poor. This is just an equalizer. The coronavirus is an equalizer, and we just need to make sure that we all are keeping safe. We all are observing the rules that have been put in place. Only go out when it's really necessary, and try by all means to maintain social distancing, because this thing, you really never know how you get it. You really never know where it will come from, and the best thing that you can do for yourself is to social distance yourself, keep the hygiene. If you have to wash your hands thoroughly, make sure that you do that. If you have to use hand sanitizer, do that. If you have to go out into the public, put you on a face mask. Though some are saying if you don't have it, don't put on the face mask. I don't know. For me, do whatever it is that you need to do just to keep safe. You never know what might protect you. We don't know whether this thing is airborne. I don't know how this thing really gets transmitted from one person to the other. So let's just do the little that we can to protect ourselves. The governments, the law enforcement agents that are put out there, there's nothing really they can do. All they can do is just to maintain the lockdown and keep you locked in. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to keep yourself safe. Right, Mufudzi, you back?
Yes, I'm back and I'm all juiced up now.
All juiced up now. Okay, I'm also trying to get myself juiced up also, so that okay. All right. Like we said, it's really just a general conversation. And if you feel like you would like to join us also in this conversation, you are more than welcome to join in the conversation as we observe the lockdowns that have been enforced in our different countries. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Mufudzi, who's somewhere out there in the world. I saw you taking a walk. Is that allowed? Though?
Yes.
The other day.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
so I mean, let me explain something about what the lockdown is supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Translate what it to.
Yeah.
The whole idea is for us to observe what is called social distancing. Mm-hmm. Now, social distancing is the distance that you put yourself between yourself and the next person, okay, which is a safe distance. And the whole idea is to reduce what we call direct transmission. Mm-hmm. You know, when somebody is coughing, or when body fluids from one individual are transmitted directly to the next individual. Mm-hmm. So the distance of 2 meters was observed or seen to be an optimal distance, mm-hmm. Especially for the transmission of COVID-19. So as long as you are observing a 2-meter distance from each other, mm-hmm. then that should be fine. So taking a walk should not be a problem.
Right.
The only problem is when people start to gather around. Now that's a problem. Mm-hmm. You see. So essentially, when they say lockdown, they're not really saying you should not even get out of your house. Now I don't know what kind of information is being given in different countries. But really, people should not be confined inside the house only. But we are saying, don't make unnecessary movements. Don't just go out unnecessarily, because what that will do is you start creating congestion. Mm-hmm. You know, and then that 2-meter distance becomes very difficult to observe.
Okay. All right.
So lockdown should mean stay at home as much as you can, because we don't want people to be crowded. But if you're out, observe 2-meter distance from each other.
Right. So now what I need to understand is when we say 2 meters, are you saying if I cough, whatever spit that comes out of my mouth when I cough, in a 2-meter distance, it doesn't reach you?
So there are different variables, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's how you are coughing, and we also have things like wind direction. Mm-hmm. But in general, what studies showed is that the transmission of this disease is mostly due to what they call droplets. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
Drop from your saliva. Now, the is that these droplets should not go beyond a 2-meter radius. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is the whole reason. So they say in studies, they say it's about 1.5 meters, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
So 2 meters is an extra. You've got an extra 500 or so meters. What do you call it? So you've got 2 meters, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
And half of well, anyway, you do the maths. But anyway, 2 meters.
Yeah.
2 meters
2
was
meters.
discovered to be the optimal
Okay.
distance. Okay. Yes.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And we're also joined by Philip. Bro Philip, how are you?
I'm sleeping.
You're on total lockdown, I see.
Yeah.
Yes,
hello, great.
How are you, sir?
Greetings.
Mm.
How are
I'm
you?
all right, thank you.
You look very well.
Yeah, no, I'm well now, compared to a couple of days back. Anyway, that's not about me. It's just conversations. So, I mean, I see a lot of people, complaining. I mean, in South Africa, it's you're not allowed to go outside the yard. If you are to take walks around your yard. If you're walking your dog, walk them around your yard. Just don't step outside the yard. That is the lockdown. Bottle stores, bars are closed. The sale of alcohol is banned. So there's no sale of alcohol. There's no sale of cigarettes. And a lot of people, there's even a petition, I think, that I saw this morning on Twitter that has been put out there, people petitioning the sale of alcohol, saying no, alcohol has to be sold. Why is alcohol banned though? If a bottle store is open, I understand bars being closed because you reduce the people coming and gathering in the same place, but a bottle store, people can buy and go back to their houses. Why would we ban the sale?
Yeah, but
so
can I interview? Okay, go on, brother.
Okay, I was going to say I can't really tell you the reason or the rationale behind that by the South African government, but what I can tell you is by my own observation of people, especially in Africa or all over the world, but more so in South Africa or Zimbabwe, who I really know very well their behaviors. Yeah. When people drink, they tend to enjoy a bit more movement. They will not observe that social distancing I was talking about. It's most likely that you'll have people breaking that rule, and you'll have people all over the place. Now, the best way to just deal with that is to just say, you know what? Don't sell alcohol. If you've got alcohol in your house, drink it in your house. You see, they're not saying don't drink alcohol, but they're saying do it in your property, because they know once they open those bottle stores and shabins, and we know this, people will start drinking there.
Exactly.
And it becomes a problem.
Yeah, no, true. Okay. No, I get your point, and coming from a drinker point of view, I've noticed that whenever I drink from home, you get that feel of wanting to go out. Once you drink, whether you're drinking from home, whatever, you just want. So I get your point that banning it completely is sort of protecting you against yourself.
Yeah, it's the best thing they can ever do.
Okay, and I don't know how testing is done in the UK or where you guys are, but I've noted that in Africa or at the points of entry, I'll specifically give the road ports of entry, like your Beitbridge border post. It's temperature that they take. Take your temperature, and if you're below 40 or you're below 36, it's a normal body temperature. But I'm sitting. I'm just thinking. I'm sitting in a bus with 68 other passengers, and one of us happens to have the virus, and the aircon is on the whole night in the bus. And
Yeah.
people cough, and there's just a lot of germs that go in. I get to the testing point, my temperature is okay, but I've inhaled the bacteria in the
Yeah.
bus. That's me taking the virus onto my next destination. Is this, will this be our downfall though, as Africa? The way that we've been conducting this
Well,
test.
the challenge is everywhere. It's not just in Africa. I mean, in developed countries, the
Yeah.
problem is the incubation period for this
Yeah.
disease. And the incubation period means the period between when you get infected and when you start to show symptoms.
Yeah.
They say it's about 7 days,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yes.
And sometimes during that period, a lot of people would be in contact with other people.
Yes.
Now, it's a challenge because not everybody will show a temperature, as you have said.
Mhm.
The other thing is the type of testing that is required cannot be done at port of entries.
Mhm.
So, a lot of talk about these antibody tests, rapid tests for COVID-19. And there's a lot of evidence that has come out to say those do not work because they provide a lot of false negatives.
Mm.
So false negative means they're saying you do not have the disease when you actually have it.
Yeah.
So those antibody tests are not ideal, and they are not actually used in a lot of these developed countries. So it becomes a challenge now. How do you diagnose people who are going into a country, and you know how busy those port of entries are?
Very.
So people tend to go by the symptoms, such as your body temperature.
Yes.
And if you do have a temperature that is above 37.4
That is.
degrees, then they would say you need to be quarantined because you are presenting with one of the symptoms. Funnily enough, if a person is coughing, I'm not sure they would say the same to that person and say, well, okay, you are coughing, you also need to be quarantined.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
If
The
I
point.
may ask you one thing,
Yeah. Yes,
are
Prophet.
these buses traveling from South Africa to Zimbabwe with passengers? Are they open?
No. They are not moving at the moment.
They are not moving at the moment.
No. At the moment, everything is closed. There's no incoming or outgoing. So everyone is just in their father's houses. As if your father had a house, I guess. Yeah, because what you are bringing here, Mfutsi, is an interesting point. I think the past week we had stories of China apparently discriminating Africans, whatever. Wouldn't really want to get into that, but I saw a video yesterday of a gentleman from was it from Ghana, who
Kenya.
had was it Kenya? No, I think it's from Ghana, the one that I saw. He actually spoke to the guys that had come to conduct the test that, look, my embassy hasn't informed me, so I would like to put this on video. So when they were doing the test, he actually had it recorded. But what I noticed with the test is they took, I don't know what it's called, whether there's a medical term of it, but they ran it inside his mouth, right? And I think they
It's a
put
swab.
It's a swab.
It's called a swab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they used a swab, ran it in his mouth, and then put it in some little whatever thingy, shaked it a bit. So I was expecting results, you see, but then they told him, like, no, your results will be out within 24 hours. So that shows you how serious this thing is. It's not something that you can measure by temperature or that you can measure by somebody just coughing and say, oh, you're coughing, quarantine. oh, your body temperature is 37. I might just have a headache or a runny tummy or something that's
Yeah.
not right with me. Then you quarantine me for something that I don't have.
Yeah, and you're being, and then you'll be quarantined with people who have got something.
Something, exactly. Then I then catch the disease in quarantine.
That's why we are saying do not travel. Because if you think about it, from the government's point of view, what else can they do? They do not have the resources to put every single person in their own room. You know, the best thing they can do is to just put you together as a group in one area.
Yes. And then reinfect each other.
Yeah, so it is quite dangerous. So if you can, do not travel. Stay at home.
Yeah.
Or wherever it is that you are. Because the chances are, if you don't have it, you are going to get it when you are placed in those quarantine areas.
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't have it, stay at home. And so lockdown is really necessary. But
well, I'll give you some figures for Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
So there is a study that was done at the Imperial College in London.
Okay.
And what they are forecasting is that in 250 days, which is about 8 months' time, right? They expect that there would be between 11,000 to about 13,000, or let me just say 11,000 to about 14,000 deaths due to COVID-19 in Zimbabwe.
Sure, that's scary.
The number of beds that they predict or that they've modeled that would be required for those that are hospitalized, we are talking about more than 100,000 beds in critical care. Now, we do not have those resources.
No, we don't.
Right? Now, if we are looking at such figures, because they are taking into account a situation where now they are those institutions that are providing those services and looking after these patients. My prediction is that actually, if we look at the studies from other countries, and really what we're saying about 3% of people that would have contracted it die. 3% die, isn't it? We say 80% they get mild symptoms, just like your ordinary flu, and that's fine, right? And then you've got about some 8% or so, those would need to be hospitalized, right? And out of the 8%, 3% die, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we are looking at those models and we project it in Zimbabwe, I would say I think the numbers that the Imperial College actually put across are very modest. I would put it at around 200 to 280,000 deaths, in during period.
The period.
And if we are so if we are looking at the fact that we are only assuming that this happens in the cities, then talking about 200 to 280,000 deaths. But if we now include rural areas, where the majority of people are, then we are looking at around 600 to 800,000 people that might die. Now, those are startling figures, and you're looking at other compounding factors such as comorbidities. It means things like hypertension, things like diabetes, things like respiratory issues like asthma and things like that. Those people are at risk.
No, true. I mean,
when we say stay at home or be responsible enough not to just travel, these are the things that we're trying to avoid, because essentially Zimbabwe does not have the resources to look after these patients anyway. You don't have ventilators, you don't have beds, we're not even talking about medication, because that's a whole area of
concern as well.
Concern, yeah, and not just for Zimbabwe, world over,
Yes.
nobody really knows what is the right treatment protocol to use, because it's all very new and it's all very difficult. So the best thing that African countries can do for themselves is to prevent transmission. And here's the problem.
Yeah.
What we've been having so far are what we call imported cases, where someone is coming from a country that has got loads of cases, and they arrive in Zimbabwe, they test positive after a few days or so. But what we have since recognized from those that have been tested so far is that there is now evidence of community transmission. And what that means is this is transmission within the community from people who would not have traveled or gone anyway. Now, this is what we call the genie has gone out of the bottle. It's out.
It's out there.
So the best thing that you can, the next best thing that you can now do is to really enforce this lockdown. But it comes with challenges.
No,
the challenges are...
okay, yeah.
Mufudzi. Is it Mufudzi?
Go on.
Mufudzi?
Yes, yeah. Mufudzi,
yeah. Is in the UK? Are you in the UK, brother?
Not now.
If you were in the UK, I was going to ask you, what do you think about the lockdown in the UK? I think it's not working at all, because I don't want to lie to you. The amount of people on the street and the amount of people cycling outside, we are still very behind. I cannot see this thing stopping for the next 6 months in the UK at the moment.
Yeah. So in the UK, remember, if I'm to comment about the UK, what has been happening in the UK is they wanted to try a different approach to tackle this. So they wanted to try what they call herd immunity, where they would leave a number of people to be infected by the disease. As we said, 80% will be fine, right? Yeah. And then from that 80%, people will start building immunity against this disease, right? But what they quickly realize is that there is this 10% of people who get critically ill. And when you translate those numbers with the population of the UK, the NHS would not be able to cope. So that's why they then changed their stance in March and now implemented this lockdown. Now, the lockdown in the UK is such that you are allowed to go out for essential things like buying food. You are allowed to go for walks. You're allowed to go cycle, right? What they do not allow is for people to gather in parks or to have any sort of gathering anyway, or to visit other people in their homes. Those are the things that they do not allow. Now, according to the recent information, what they are saying is that they expect the numbers now to be steady. They think that they have reached their peak.
Right.
So they are expecting that the number of deaths should not go beyond 900 a day. We should start seeing them be steady at around between 700 to 900 for a week, and then you start seeing those numbers to start to go down, which will mean that community transmission is being controlled.
Yeah.
And also, their other argument is they are saying that the number of cases that they are seeing in the community, in terms of community services, has gone down. So that is evidence for them to say, well, the lockdown is working. Even though what you are saying seems to hold water to say, but there are a lot of people who are still out there but according to what they are saying is because they are not seeing a lot of an increase in the number of community
People-
cases,
Yeah.
it means it's going down.
Okay. All right. So this lockdown really is necessary, and you can't really put a timeline onto it, can you?
No. So the lockdown, what you do is you review it after a period or so. So maybe
Yeah.
in about 4 weeks' time, you can review to see how things are. So I'll give you an example. If you think about Italy and Spain, that
Yes.
in Europe, those are the countries that had the highest numbers of deaths and confirmed cases. At the moment, they are now allowing essential services to reopen. So
If they manage,
you can
if they
review.
manage, how is the number? How
So-
is the number of the cases?
Well, they think that they've reached the peak,
Mhm.
and that their numbers are going down. But we have learned some lessons from South Korea, where if you quickly try and open these restrictions,
Yeah.
it can easily go sideways. So in South Korea, they thought they had it under control, and then they were now allowing people to go out, and they quickly realized that actually they had new cases. The number of new cases started to increase. So they had to then again introduce the lockdown. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think that is the thing with lockdown is people, or we, the individuals, we busy complaining about lockdown and wanting to go back to work, but we forget that this thing is still out there, and if not properly managed, we might just be opening a can of coronaviruses that will come back and really destroy us, like it happened in Italy. I think with Italy, the story is people really didn't take it serious. People didn't take it seriously, and look at them now. And Africa also, if we are quickly to say, okay, we're lifting the lockdown after a month, in the case of South Africa, I think it's only Botswana that has put the lockdown to 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's smart. But I think the challenge here, Wildfire, the challenge is that we should not copy and paste solutions.
Yeah.
Because the lockdown, as is in the UK, France, Italy, is very different to the lockdown we see in Africa. You need to understand that our economies are different. The way people live is also different. It's very difficult in Africa to say, well, you can't go anyway. You can only go out to buy food. Now, listen, to go and buy food, some people would need to look for the money first. They would need to work, do something first to get money to buy food for that particular day.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult. So what I think should have been done, or should be done in Africa, is we need to rethink our model of lockdown. We need to emphasize on the need for social distancing. To observe the 2-meter distance. We need to allow people to go out and sell their products. And we need to allow, you can't just say, OK or TM or Pick and Pay are the only shops that would be allowed to open, as if everybody in those communities can afford to buy food in those shops.
But I mean, when you say we need to allow, are we not creating
That is good.
a situation where we allow, let's say, your informal traders to go back, let's say Mbare Musika, Joburg Market, they open up their stores. You can't control how people sort of get into those markets. So are we not really putting ourselves in danger if we do that?
No, so you need to control that process, okay? This is where you need to use your security services, your police, your army, right, to enforce social distancing in places like that. Making sure that people are observing social distancing. Look, this is the next, it's not ideal, but what other solution is there? What is the best thing to do? You can't just lock people in their houses and think that everybody has got the privilege of having enough money to go and buy groceries with to use for 21 days. That it doesn't work like that.
Yes.
Yeah, but
so you need to recognize that is the situation.
When
the
I was
alternative
watching
is for the government. The alternative is for the government to provide food to people in those homes. Now, can the government do that?
When I watched in China how they managed this, you could not leave. Let's just give an example of Zimbabwe. You could not leave Rwanda to West Nicholson. You could not leave West Nicholson to. You know what? If you belong in Rwanda, you will stay in Rwanda until the lockdown is, and that's how they manage. But in Zimbabwe, you wenda unopinda kubulawayo wenda unodiya chipapai pamapurisa. We are not going to win that, my brother. Let's be honest.
No.
And that's why, did you see what Themba Mdiso was saying yesterday? You see, that's what we want. A serious leadership yokudza vanhu chinhu chinouraya ichi. Because kana uchiti vanhu ngavaende unotengesa, yes, vanhu veZimbabwe they are suffering. We understand that. In Africa they are suffering. But we need to be strict. Let's suffer for a short time, but avoid this thing. This thing will wipe a lot of people, brother.
Yeah, so that's why I'm talking about enforcement. So look at India. Okay.
Yeah.
So India is one country that is almost in a situation like ours, and they're doing a very good job. Yeah, they're doing a very good job in allowing informal traders to trade and using their security services to enforce social distancing measures. Teach people about infection control, washing your hands. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I've got a question before you
teaching
finish that. I've got a question before you finish that. The mask. How good are those masks, my brother?
Yeah, actually, I really wanted to bring that to Mufudzi, because I think you had something to say when this whole thing was beginning, in terms of how people go out wearing masks. And obviously, we had the World Health Organization saying that the mask, you can't really wear them if you are not infected. But my question is, I go out to a public place, like I go out to the shops, and there's people who are getting their essentials. God forbid one of the customers there or one individual is infected, and whatever happens, they call for whatever. What are the chances that I'll catch the bug if I'm not covering my mouth and nose?
Okay, so what I want to absolutely make clear here is that the issue of mask is controversial. Okay, so I want people to understand this. The issue of masks is controversial in the sense that there's got to be a solid agreement on how the disease is transmitted. Now, there are two things that came out. Initially, it was said that from the Chinese studies, initially they say that the disease seems to be spread by aerosolized particles. Aerosolized particles, it means these are particles that will linger in the air for a long time, and they can travel to in long distances, right? Now, if that's the case, if that is the case, that the disease is transmitted through aerosolized particles, what it means is you need a specific type of mask that can filter pathogens such as viruses and bacteria. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yes.
And that means that would require you to move around with a mask even when you're outside or when you're in a shop, okay?
Yeah.
Because we are saying the virus can linger around in the air for many hours, right? So that's one issue. The second thing is what the World Health Organization and most governments in developed countries are saying is that it is transmitted through droplets.
Yeah.
And I said droplets don't usually go beyond 2 meters. And this is the reason why they say if you do not have the disease, do not wear a mask. Only those that have got the disease should wear a mask so that they can prevent the droplets from leaving them anyway. So in essence, the advice is that if you are not working in a healthcare setting,
Yeah.
or handling someone who has got the disease,
It is, yeah.
then you do not need to wear.
Yeah, but now you see, my argument then is I don't think we've really narrowed down to how this thing is transmitted. Because if you're saying the Chinese are saying this thing is airborne, then you've got other scientists that are saying
it was one study. It was one study.
It was one study. Then you've got other studies that are saying that keep that social distancing of 2 meters. So we're not certain how this thing transmits from one person to the other. So wouldn't be the mask an essential necessity for me when I go out to the shops? I put on my mask.
Yeah. I've got a question on top of
that. What they're saying is that there's nothing wrong with you wearing a mask. Okay.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is if everybody buys masks, then there won't be any for healthcare professionals who actually need them.
Need the mask.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's use these masks responsibly. So if you don't have the disease, you don't need the mask because you need to observe social distancing and you're fine. If you have the disease, then wear the mask.
Sorry, probably I'm not pronouncing your name well because I can't properly see it there. But we have seen in the UK whereby about 14 drivers have died. Okay. Remember, a bus driver is covered by the screen and everything. So how are they getting this disease, those drivers?
So they might have got it in their homes. They might have got it from surfaces. You know, that's where the issue is. You can't really tie it down to say, well, it was because of direct transmission. You know, it may have been from indirect transmission where they would have picked it up from a surface, leaving the bus, all at their homes.
Okay. Right. You see, can you see me, Mvuti? I bought myself a snooch. You know what a snooch is? I bought myself a snooch. Right. Sometimes when I'm going out, I cover my mouth like that and my ears like that. So am I safe like that, or is that something else? Because I just do this when I'm traveling. Do you think I'm okay like that?
So if in terms of what we are talking about, droplets, transmission and things like that, if you observe your 2 meters, look, I would say having that is better than not having anything. But if we want to go into the if we are going into the science, right?
Yeah.
No, you are not safe. You are as good as not really doing anything. Let's say, for example, if it's spread through the air, right? We know the virus, the size of the virus is much smaller than those pores. As long as you can breathe air, it means you can breathe the virus. That's scary. That's why they are what they call specialized masks for people who are working who are working with patients that the environment becomes aerosolized. If you're using ventilators and you're intubating patients, the chances are it becomes aerosolized, isn't it? That's why you find people in those wards, they use as a different type of mask, which are called the FFP3 masks or the N95 masks. But the FFP3 masks are usually used for people who are trying to filter out viruses and bacteria. Surgical masks, the one that you would probably have or use around, isn't it? Those are used by people to avoid, things like droplets, splatter, and things like that, isn't it? They're good for that. So if it's droplets and things like that, then you're okay, my brother, to just put on whatever it is that you have. It's better than nothing. It's okay. But what you need to do is to observe 2-meter distance. That is important. And also, make sure that when you get home, that mask and things like that, you sanitize them accordingly. Right? You can't use them over and over again. You see, I laugh at people who I see in the shops. They'll be wearing gloves. You find someone wearing gloves, right? And they will have these gloves. Both of their hands, they're wearing gloves. They're pushing a trolley. And they will answer their phone wearing those gloves. They will also take out their wallets, and they would open and take their cards, use their cards in the shop and put their wallets back. And you're thinking, what is the point of you wearing gloves then? If you're wearing gloves both hands, then it's of no point. What you need to do is when you're wearing your gloves, make sure it's one hand that is touching the things that you don't want to touch. Yeah. The other hand is touching the things that you don't want contaminated.
What about if you wear gloves and sanitize your gloves?
Well, if you're wearing gloves, what gloves are you talking about?
The normal plastic gloves.
So you need to use disposable gloves. You use them once and you throw them away.
Yeah, that's the one.
Use them once and you throw them away. But remember, if you are going to be touching things you don't want to touch, to contaminate, when you're wearing gloves, you're defeating the whole point.
Yeah.
You're as good as not doing anything. So make sure that one of your hands is free, does not get involved with any touching of things that you don't want to touch. It only touches things that you don't want to be contaminated.
Right.
What about the exchange of cash, handling cash? Let's just say those guys who are working in the supermarket, and what are the chances?
Again, you've got to, if you are making an assumption that money is contaminated, then this is why we say infection control measures, personal hygiene. When you get home, wash your hands, okay? Don't touch your mouth and your eyes or your nose. Wash your hands. That's how you can get rid of that situation.
Okay, so it's all about observing hygiene. That's the only thing that.
What about what? Yeah, personal hygiene. Yes, it's very important. Even though you've got your masks, even though you've got your mask on, you are practicing social distancing. Still, when you get home, clean your hands using soap. Everybody knows now how to do that, and also wash your surfaces. Make sure they're clean all the time. Even if you don't have soap, some people can say, well, we don't have soap or whatever.
Soap,
just a clean source of water, right, can go a long way. Wash your hands thoroughly for more than 20 seconds. That would really help.
For those guys who are working, let's just say nurses, you finish your duty. You are saying, as soon as you get home, before you do anything, throw your clothes in the washing and you wash your body, everything, your clothes, everything. Wash them.
Yes. Take off your clothes. Don't hug anybody when you come in. If possible, ring before you go home. Open the door for me, so you don't have to handle any door handles or anything, and go straight into the shower. Take your clothes, wash them by themselves, mix them with other clothes.
Oh, so the other issue.
Themselves.
Okay, so this is the thing, eh?
We're just trying to be precautious here.
Precautious, This is the thing that I've, my 14 days, horrible 14 days, there was a period where I would
Yeah.
need to go out and see a doctor, and I would use an Uber, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, sitting at the back, I'm like, how many people have been in this car today?
Exactly.
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 And if they say this thing can be on the surface for 4 hours plus, what are the chances
Yeah.
that one of the people that were in this ride had the infection?
So
Or what are the
so
chances that I'm leaving an infection on this ride as well?
so all you do
Mm.
whenever you are in your house or outside your house, always think that you are picking up the virus, right?
Mhm.
And exercise infection control measures like washing your hands, cleaning your surfaces. So you can't run away from the fact that you will get in contact with these surface
Yeah.
things from outside. But
Mhm.
as long as you exercise good personal hygiene by washing your hands, cleaning the surfaces around you, then that will go a long way.
Mm. True that. Right. I don't know. Any closing remarks, Brother Philip?
No, I think the guy is actually explaining this to me. I don't know how professional he is, but the way he's saying it, and I can see that he has got knowledge about what he's talking about.
Mhm.
So, you know, let's just say probably my last question before you wrap up. Let's just say maybe we swap duties, or let's just say I'm a driver of something, or let's just say a bus driver or a taxi driver. I'm swapping duties with that guy. So before
Mhm.
I take over, I have to sanitize everything. Do I need to spray all on the air, or I need to? What do I need to do taking over the shift from someone?
Mhm.
Okay, so if you are taking over a shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most importantly, if you are sharing things like a vehicle
Yes.
or whatever it is, you need
Yeah.
to make sure that you sanitize
Mhm.
the areas that common areas. So your
Yeah.
steering, the
Yeah.
dashboard, the seats if they are leather or whatever, right? If
Yeah.
you've got, not everybody will have these things. If you've got disinfectants, sprays, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with spraying. Spray, close the door, wait for a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes for it to do its job, and then
Yeah.
go back again. But most importantly, even if you have done that,
Mhm.
make sure you wash your hands and you don't touch your mouth and your nose and your eyes. Regardless of the fact that you have done all that,
Yes.
always assume that there is some virus lurking in some corner somewhere.
Mhm.
Ah, that's great.
So,
That's great.
the takeaway message from this whole conversation is let us observe social distancing. Let us observe good hygiene. If you go out, if you were in a public ride or shared ride, when you come back, take off your clothes, wash them separately, take a shower. Your surfaces in the house, make sure you keep them clean. Use your jigs that are there. Just keep everything around you clean. Just don't unnecessarily touch where you're not supposed to touch. Only touch what is important in that time. And just protect yourself and don't look on the government to enforce hygiene on you as a person. You have the power to do so. And if you value your life, you will take care of yourself and do the right things to make sure that you protect yourself and you protect those next to you. Brother Philip.
Sorry, I should have asked this before. I don't know whether he knows. Two things. Let's just say, my brother, Wildfire, he has had this coronavirus. First, the question is, can he still get it again, or once you get it, when it comes again, he has to be immune? And then the other question I want to ask is, um, let's just say, because there are a lot of people, but a lot of people had a few in the last few months, including me. So if I go and check today, can they tell me that yes, you had coronavirus some few months ago, but you are now negative? Can they find out? Those are the two questions.
Okay, so the first question is, there is there is a view from studies in South Korea and also in China, where they have seen that people who already were confirmed with the disease and that had recovered from the disease have subsequently tested positive. And in China, they reported that some of those people went on and actually died from the disease. So there are not a lot of studies. These are they were looking at about 51 patients that they followed, and that's not a huge number. What they are saying is that the virus can reactivate. It's not through reinfection, but through what they call reactivation. Okay, so this is ongoing. I don't want to comment much on it because a lot of people are still looking into it. Yeah? But based on those small numbers, they have seen that some people have tested positive again. But what we don't know is, did they have the similar symptoms, or it's just a matter of because the test was done and it's showing positive? What we don't know is, so that's one thing. Your second question relates to, what was the second question again?
My second question is a wildfire. The wildfire Agamboro. Let's not say I had my terrible flu in the last few months. Or
okay, they see it. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes. Okay. So an antibody test is a test that can actually show that. And we are saying at the moment those tests are not working with such high efficacy. There are issues with those tests. They are showing false negatives, and they're no good. But they are developing them. As we speak, they are refining those tests. And those tests will be able to show you whether A, you've got the disease, or B,
or you
have had the disease in the past.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's said and done. I've got a message from my network provider, which is Telkom SA. They say lockdown means stay at home. If you don't provide essential services, please don't go to work. Together we can beat this. A message from the government. So yeah, let's stay at home and let us observe the rules that are put in place.
So the message I would just put out there is, without scaring anyone, right?
Yeah.
If you were listening from the beginning, the figures that I gave, those are startling figures. They are huge figures, huge numbers. We're talking about 200 to 280,000 people who might die because of this disease in Zimbabwe, right? And the only thing that we can do to prevent that is for us to observe social distancing, to make sure that we are not mixing with other people, right? So stick in your family clusters and just make sure that if you go out, you're observing those social distances and clean your hands. And that's the only chance we have. Forget about the situation of when you actually have it. Oh, will the government be able to hospitalize everyone? We know they are not going to be able to do that.
No,
they don't have the resources.
Even the well-developed countries, I mean, are struggling. Look at the United States.
Yes.
They are turning parks into hospitals.
So this is the only chance. This is the only time we have to control this by staying at home. You reduce the transmission. Now, like I said, 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, if you've got it, you would have already known you've got it. And if you've had it, you would have had it and it's gone. So you can't infect other people. So it's a good thing. So imagine if for 2 weeks, everyone in Zimbabwe stayed in their homes. It means that's the quicker we can get over this lockdown. If everybody for 2 weeks observed the lockdown as it should be observed, it means that those that have got the disease will have it, and they'll get over it, and they won't be able to spread it anywhere else. And it means that after 14 days, then you will see a decline or no confirmed new cases. And that means people can now be able to review the lockdown and see how they can start, going into business as usual in phases. So that's why it's important. Stay at home is important if we observe it properly. If we don't observe it properly, it means the lockdown is not going to end. It will continue to be reviewed after so often, which is not good.
Yeah, exactly. So the best thing that we can do to avert this is by staying home. Staying home means that it's less infection rates that are on the rise. So but then also it comes back to the issue of testing. We are on lockdown right now. Are tests being done door to door?
Okay, so
because we are logged in. This is the period when the officials now need to have resources to literally go house by house, apartment by apartment, testing individuals, just like what China is currently doing.
Well, I will tell you right now, that is wishful thinking. That is wishful thinking, because we do not have the resources to test. It's an expensive test, okay? We do not have the resources to test every single individual in our country. And that's why you find developed countries like the UK, they couldn't do it. They can't do it. It's very expensive, right?
Yeah.
They will only say, we'll only test those people that are showing symptoms. And I think that's the best way to go about it. But here's the thought. I want you to understand this. Whether you are tested or not, right? It all boils down to the same thing. There's no treatment out there. Okay? The only thing you'll be asked to do is to stay at home and manage your symptoms at home. Do you see now my point?
Yes.
There's no treatment out there that you're going to get, right? What they'll simply do is to stay at home and say, manage your symptoms. It's treatment. They only have what we call case management for people who cannot breathe by themselves. They'll only try and give you oxygen, ventilators. So you have, but that's not treatment. You're just being assisted to breathe, to stay alive for as long as your body can fight that side.
Can fight,
So testing might be ideal, yes, and it gives us a good idea of how this thing is spreading or where we are with numbers. I would have loved for that to happen, but let's be honest, we don't have the resources. We can't afford it. So what can we do? What we can do is absolutely try and stay at home. And for 2 weeks, if we can stay at home with observing social distancing, practicing personal hygiene, I'm telling you, it will make a world of difference.
All right.
Before we know it, we will not have new cases. Before we know it, we will review the lockdown and we'll be back to business as usual.
Right. So let us observe the lockdown. Okay. All right. No, thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been our conversation this afternoon. General conversations, just throwing around ideas, how we can protect ourselves, and obviously looking at the worldview of what other countries are doing and how they are containing this. And I think the secret has been stay at home. That's the only secret. Stay at home, observe the lockdowns, and let's keep safe and see you on the other side.
And one thing that before we close down, one thing that I want to also let people know, contrary to the information that people were spreading around, it has been shown in countries like America and the UK that this disease affects people of the ethnic minorities, especially blacks and Asians, more than white people. So this disease has got an affinity to people of color, black people. And another thing that I would also want to highlight to those that will be using hydrochloroquine, as a treatment protocol, just be careful that it needs monitoring, because it's been reported that there is some contraindications, or there is some effect that you get if you have what they call G6PD, which is glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. It's a genetic condition that is found in America. They've put it at 1 in 10 people, Black Americans. Every 1 in every 10 Black Americans will have that condition. And when you take hydrochloroquine or chloroquine, it causes what is called hemolytic anemia, which is just the breakdown of those red blood cells more. And that can lead to a number of things, obviously, organ failure and then death. So it needs to be supervised or monitored by a trained clinician if you are taking those tablets.
You don't
just drink.
You don't just take.
And also, there is a specific treatment protocol for it, right? You just don't drink. You know, you start off with 200 milligrams, and you know it's
gradually
over number.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of I'm just going to get these chloroquine and azithromycin and just take. Be careful. Don't do that. Speak to a trained doctor, a clinician, who will advise you on how to take it, and if they've got the information and understand how this is done. Meanwhile, what I can absolutely tell you to do is drink vitamin D tablets. Vitamin D tablets have been shown to work on respiratory tract infections caused by viruses and bacteria. Take 1 a day. Vitamin D tablets, they affect one of the pathways that the virus uses when it replicates inside your body. Okay, so they actually fight the virus in some way. So do take that. It's very important. That's one thing that you can do for yourself. Other than that, practice what we've been talking about. In fact, on top of doing all that, practice all those things that we've talked about. I think that's all I have to say.
No, thank you so much, Mufudzi. And Prof. Philip, thank you so much also for your time. And to our viewers, thank you. Hopefully what we've shared this afternoon, this morning, you put it to good use, and let us stay safe, and let's be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.